Hi friends, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another monthly wrap up. I went to the movies a lot this month, so I have a lot to talk about. A lot of movies I have opinions on that don't exactly fit into horror, but I've had a lot of questions about them, so I'm excited to get into them. And of course, some that do, a lot that do, and TV shows as well. Before we jump straight into it, I want to thank today's sponsor, which is Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, which stands for Virtual Private Network. Not only do they encrypt all of your data and protect your privacy online, they also unlock geo-blocked content. That includes YouTube videos you cannot get in your current location. Surfshark can also be used on some streaming platforms, which is how I watch a lot of content. I would not recommend something I don't already use, and I've been paying out of pocket for Surfshark for more than 2 years, and it's by far the easiest VPN I've ever used. Surfshark have a 30-day risk-free money-back guarantee, so if you're not sure, why not test it out for 30 days, and if you aren't happy with the product, you can get a refund, no questions asked. If you'd like to check out Surfshark today, obviously I highly recommend it. Use my code SPOOKY to get 83% off and 3 months extra for free. The link is also in the description down below. Thank you so much to Surfshark for sponsoring creators like me, and let's jump into the video because I have so much to talk about. Starting at the start of the month, it was kind of a rocky start for me, I'm not gonna lie. I started with Barbarians, which I talked about in What's Going to VOD for last month, and unfortunately I didn't really love this one. You can see there's kind of a mixed reaction, but it kind of just fell flat for me. It's a interesting premise though, about a couple that are having a date night birthday dinner with another couple in this estate property, and then secrets come out at the dinner table, but it's not straightforward. I'm making it sound very straightforward so I don't give away anything. I just felt like the characters felt really flat, and yeah, I just did not enjoy this one. I probably wouldn't recommend it. Cordelia is the next one I watched, a very strange film about two sisters who live in this apartment, and one has gone through this traumatic event. It was fine. I kind of gave it like a very average score, like 2.5. But you can see by people's responses, they kind of felt the same. It's meant to be like a psychological kind of thriller, and I really did not feel that. Did not feel thrilling at all, and yeah, it was just a bit of a strange film, and not in a good way. Ginger Snaps, I rewatched this because I wanted to do a video on it, and I still haven't figured out what theme I want to talk about within this film. But of course, a great rewatch if you have not checked out Ginger Snaps yet. It's peak 2000s. It feels like 90s. Obviously, it's like 2000s, so it feels like a 90s, 2000s kind of horror. It's like a coming of age puberty movie with werewolves, and I like it. I'm not a huge werewolf fan, but I feel like when werewolf films hit, they hit hard, and this is a great film and just really interesting. The banter between the sisters, absolutely love that one. The next one is Mari Bito. I definitely did not pronounce that right. It's a Japanese film that I talked about in a video recently. Very dark, gruesome, gritty, interesting film. The film is about a man who becomes obsessed with the lore of this underground realm beneath Tokyo. It's very gritty and super interesting. I highly recommend it, but I did talk about it recently in a video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if you're into Japanese horror that's quite gritty, highly recommend. Ambulance, this is one. This is a really interesting one because I don't usually watch Michael Bay films. It's not really like my kind of cup of tea, but I was invited to the premiere of this one, and I actually thought it was good. I went in knowing exactly what it would be, and it was that. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was amazing in it, and I don't know, it was thrilling. It was interesting because usually I don't like action movies, but all of the shots and all that kind of stuff, it was obviously overkill, but in a way that was kind of satisfying because I knew exactly what I was getting myself into. I don't know why people watch these films and then expect something completely different, because it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. I feel like these films are the reason there are trailers, because these films exist for people who want to scratch that itch. And yeah, I actually thought it was pretty good. If you're into like action thriller, I thought it had all of the good chase scenes. I was glued to the screen. I thought it was funny when it was meant to be funny. It was a little bit soppier towards the end. There's like a few montagey moments, but again, to be expected. I didn't hate it. Look at me go. I watched The Occupant, which I absolutely loved. Again, I spoke about this in a recent video about foreign horror movies. I absolutely love this film, and it sent me on a little bender of watching Spanish thrillers, which you'll see a lot of this month. Highly recommend. It's on Netflix. Antibodies was another one that I've mentioned in a recent video. I'll link that video here about the foreign movies if you want to get into detail. I just feel like I'm repeating myself for people who have already seen that, but that's a really interesting German crime movie that is very underrated for how brilliant it is and how twisted it is. So highly recommend that one. One I did not talk about is The Motive. This one, like a lot of the Spanish thrillers I've been watching, stars Javier Gutierrez. I definitely pronounced that wrong, but I'm trying. And I'm in love with him. I think he is such a good actor. And I think that this role in particular, because he's a little bit different, it's not so much of a thriller, it's more of a drama, which is why I didn't include it on any lists, but I do really recommend it. It is about a man who really wants to be a writer, but he just doesn't have the natural talent for it, and he's really forcing it. So he moves into this apartment building and he starts to manipulate people around him so that he can write about that story. So it does sound quite thrilling, but it's done in a really weird, lighthearted way, but it does have some dramatic consequences. I really enjoy this film, and he's just such a good actor. Everything he's in, I love. Why can I not get that off the screen? I absolutely love him. So if you like The Occupant, Marshland, I really recommend The Motive if you haven't seen it. Okay, Jimmy, a British horror story. I did not know about this, and I know a lot of my UK viewers will know all about Jimmy and his time on TV, and I've already had that conversation with a lot of you as well. I know that there are several different I think there's over 10 different documentaries that feature this story, which is really interesting. That there's so much content about it. There's even a Louis Theroux documentary about it, and yeah, it's super chilling. What can I say? I mean, this is a 2-part documentary series. It's on Netflix. It's about a British TV personality who was hiding a lot about his real life. But was he really hiding it? Because he was actually quite honest and people just didn't take him at face value. The interesting thing about this 2-part documentary is I felt like it took a long time to actually uncover everything. It built up his story in the first part, and then the second part, it kind of got to the accusations and things that had come out, but it took a long time to get there. So it was really interesting how long they took to build his image and then spin it the other way. So I thought it was weird, the pacing, but well worth a watch for people who don't know anything about it. And if you're into true crime, and you know, it's quite disturbing content, so obviously trigger warning for a lot of stuff in there. I think Netflix will put that up though. Nightmare on Elm Street, I was doing that horror remakes video and I just wanted to refresh myself. This is like one of the worst movies, honestly, A Nightmare on Elm Street. What can I say? I saw a lot of people say that they actually like this movie, so no disrespect to you, but I honestly think this is one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. I kept thinking about how it was like, if we had a code for all of the bad horror movies from the last 20 years and we put it into the computer and it spat out a random script, dependent on that code, this is what this would be, because it's just random. Even the dialogue doesn't fit to what's happening in different points of the movie. It's just so bizarre. The sound effects, the acting, I can't. It's not for me. It's not for anyone. I know, I think it is for some people, but just not for me. Okay, but from the lowest we get to one of the best of the month. I watched Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. That title kills me every time, I tell you what. This is a A24 film. It's so quirky, so fun, so moving, about a mother and daughter relationship, and the mother gets... How do you explain this? People who've seen it are like, good luck explaining this without ruining anything. It's basically about a mother who enters the Matrix in a way where she learns about parallel universes and the journey she has to go through. It's such a beautiful movie about the relationship between the mother and the daughter, done in such a fun and quirky way that you'll never guess what's coming next, and highly recommended. I'm sure you've heard a billion people talk about it now. And I did not know going into it that Jamie Lee Curtis was in it, and she is absolutely fantastic in this role. It's really cool to see her in something so different. So yeah, highly recommend. I watched The Cellar, which I did a review on, so I won't talk about that too much. And then I have, here we go. So these three are all Spanish, Spanish drama horrors. So I've already spoken about them. I'll link that video here just so we're not going over the same thing. But basically, I recommend them all. They're all really good. I don't think I watched a Spanish thriller drama that I didn't like this month, which was really awesome. Usually I'm watching them all to vet them, to make sure that they're good enough to add to my list. And honestly, they all had great value. But one I really want to talk about is We're All Going to the World's Fair. So this is a very interesting movie, and I went back and forth on whether to review this or not, but I felt like I just didn't have enough to say about it to warrant a whole review. Also, I feel like it's very different and it's quite misleading, but I don't think it's a bad movie. So We're All Going to the World's Fair is a new horror movie that came out this month, but it's not a full horror movie. So it's more of a drama experimental, I would say, and I think that it's kind of doing itself a disservice by, I guess this is not the poster that a lot of people see. It's this, this image of her with the green paint on that people are seeing, and with the blurb, it's talking about how it's about this girl who gets obsessed with this online role play game, and she kind of like spirals out of control. But it's a film that is more based on loneliness and people's attachment to the internet, and going into it knowing that, and I mean, it really captures that very well. Obviously, I'm a person who spends a lot of time online, and I have my whole life. So I have that weird connection where you feel so isolated, but also your whole reality is dictated. I sound really sad, but your whole reality is dictated by a small community online. Obviously, you all. And I felt that when I was a kid as well, when you just get obsessed with something and it becomes your life, and there's no real barriers between, stepping away from the computer and what you see. I hope I'm making sense, but it like captures that feeling in just the most incredible and genuine way that I really give it an applause. I thought it was really brilliant in that way. I did not rate it because I wasn't sure if I was going to review it, but I'd probably give it a 7 maybe. It's hard to explain because it's not a horror movie, and I don't want people to go into it thinking that it's terrifying in that kind of way. It's more of a still, slow burn, psychological, interesting ride. If you've seen Strings, it has the kind of same vibe as that, where the horror is more what's in between the lines than anything you actually see. I watched Metal Lords, which this is on Netflix. This I thought was very interesting because I really wasn't sure on what demographic it was for. It's about two misfit kids and their journey through school and, navigating the world, and one's like really into heavy metal and wants to make a band, and it's just like this weird journey. Like, it's like a teen movie, but it's pretty like vulgar. It's also got Jaden Martell in it, who was in It. So it's fun to see him in that, but and also stars a bunch of actual metal musicians, so obviously that was beyond me. So I can understand why people might really like it who are connected to that, but for me it just felt like a little bit strange. Like, just who it was marketed for, because if it is marketed for kids, I don't think that they would get all of those references, but then also they use strong language in some points, and so I'm like, is it for adults? But then do adults really want to see a journey through high school for a teen? But other than that, I mean, I'm obviously not its core demographic. I thought it was okay. I watched The Uninvited Guest. This is another one that I mentioned on my Spanish thrillers. Please check out that video. Trust me, there's some really good stuff in there, and I go through the description so you can write down which ones suit you. But this one, highly recommend. Obviously it's 4. I highly recommend. If you're gonna watch any, watch this one. It's so good. Such trippy story about a man who thinks that someone's in his house, and how it switches is very interesting. I watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Absolutely love this film. What a journey. So this is Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage getting invited to a house by one of his biggest fans to hang out with him. When he arrives, he finds out that the guy he's staying with could be in trouble with the law. And he has to kind of like secret agent it. It's very interesting and fun and just silly. Like, he makes a lot of references to his past work, and it's just a fun movie. It's the wholesome movie we all needed in 2022. I highly recommend it if you're a Nicolas Cage fan. If you're not, don't watch it. Don't watch it. Why would you? Choose or Die, a film that I spoke about. I did a Come With Me video. I spoke a lot about the interesting marks in this film, and a lot of people really did not like this movie, and I totally understand why. But I still found it was really interesting. Some of the aspects they used and how brutal it was. Okay, I'm a little bit worried about this next one, Belfast. Okay, so I did a little review on here. I'm not going to get into it, but a lot of people here who are from Belfast, a lot of people messaged me actually who live in Belfast about this movie and about my point on it. I did give it a 2.5 again. It's not a bad score, it's in the middle, but I didn't learn until after actually speaking to one of you that it's about the director's life. So I kind of changed I can't change your perception as the way you took the film with information given to you afterwards, but it does make it seem like it comes from a different place now. So Belfast is a movie about the conflicts in Northern Ireland and a little boy's perspective during that. I felt like it was very hollow for what it was and what I know about it. And it just makes me like emotional just thinking about it. It's just such a dark and scary thing. Fuck, why do I get so emotional on these videos? Anyway, I think it's just a very dark and sensitive topic. And seeing this movie, I was really dumbfounded by how light and breezy it was. It has like a kid laughing on the poster, and yeah, I was just kind of floored that it was so highly regarded, especially in its run for the Oscars. And it sounds like a lot of people agreed, but I can see like it goes both ways. A lot of people gave it 4 or 5 stars, but for me, that's just my perspective on it, I guess. But again, if it's someone's point of view, the director's, then you can't really fault it because that is his point of view, and obviously he understands it. It's not like I'm here telling him, oh, that's not what it was like. He obviously was there. But yeah, as I say in my little review here, I said it was flattened and skewed by a simple perspective. And that's just how I feel about the film. I would not recommend it. But I mean, I don't think this is really the core audience for it. Unless you have seen it, let me know what you thought. And if you felt that way. But yeah, a lot of people seem to agree here. I don't know. Maybe it's just a touchy subject for people to do films like this that are kind of whimsical on it. I really liked the take with Jojo Rabbit because that was such a serious topic, but it was told in a way that had so much, it was quirky, but then it had like all the darkness was real in it. And even though it was told from a child's perspective, it still hit all of those notes. That's how I felt anyway. Let me know what you thought. Did it remind you of Jojo Rabbit? Because that's all I was thinking of, mainly because it was from a kid's perspective. I rewatched Raw. I've seen the movie so many times. Absolutely love this movie. French film, so brutal, so disgusting. And oh my God, that scene with the scissors and the wax, it just gets me every time. Absolutely love this film. It's about a girl who goes to veterinary school. Her sister also is there and she gets hazed. Hazed just like hardcore. I don't know why they do this to people. And during the hazing process, it awakens something in her. It's a very interesting film. We got some more Spanish thrillers. We got Mirage and Marshland. Recommend both. I watched the new Space Jam film. Oh, look. There you go, Tyler. I'll give you a moment. No one do that anymore. Okay, Space Jam, A New Legacy. As I say, there are no words, just sadness. At the first 10 minutes, so my partner, he was like, I really want to watch this movie. And I said, I don't think it's going to be very good. We saw it, went for like 2 hours, and I said, just put it on because just start it before I can think about it. The first 10 minutes, I'm like, are we actually going to watch this whole movie? I have never been so distraught. I'm kidding. But it was just so bad. It was so bad. Every line missed. It was not funny. It was just awkward. The whole movie was just awkward. And I was just watching all of the different characters in the background of like when they're at the stadium, they have all of these different Warner Bros. Like characters around, and they have like Pennywise, and like he's just like budget Pennywise, and it's just everything was just wrong. Yeah, it was the upside down for sure. Magic Girl, another Spanish thriller that actually I'll just talk about this one here. This one's very different. It was a very strange, dry, awkward movie, and if you're into those kind of awkward ideas about how all these characters intertwine, this one is for you. Magic Girl is about a father who finds out that his daughter is dying and gives her, well, he wants to get her last wish, which is something that's very expensive. So he goes on this plot to try and get money, and everyone in his closest orbit to his idea, their lives are dramatically changed. But it's a slow movie that's just very awkward, not a lot of dialogue, and a lot left up to the imagination. It's a very strange one. If you like strange films, definitely check that one out. I watched White Hot: The Rise and Fall of Abercrombie and Fitch. This is really interesting to me because I don't... This is not, like, was not a store in Australia. Sure, we had the brand, but we never had the stores. So this is a Netflix documentary about the stores, about the, you know, the whole trend, and then of course the downfall with everything behind it. So I did not know much about that, so I found it was interesting. It wasn't the greatest documentary. I felt like it was very similar to the Von Dutch one, where the content was great, but the way it was produced, it could have, I don't know, it could have just had a little bit more oomph, a little bit more tension, but still thought it was really interesting. If you don't know anything about it and you are into kind of light true crime, check it out. Next, I watched The Northman. I gave it a 7, so that's pretty good. I do not like this as much as the other Eggers films, but that's to be expected. It was really to be expected. It's like an action. Yeah, so obviously everyone knows what The Northman is. It is the new Robert Eggers film that is centered around Norwegian lore and Vikings and Norsemen, and it is this story about this prince who has to have vengeance on someone who's wronged him and goes through his life to, like, get this. It's got some really interesting elements. Willem Dafoe and Bjork were chef's kiss. I actually did a whole Patreon come with me video on this, so if you ever want to join the Patreon, it's only $2 a month, and I do bonus videos every single week. They're a lot more relaxed and not so scripted. The link's always down below. But yeah, I did one on The Northman, and yeah, I liked a lot of the elements in the movie, but I didn't love the protagonist, which I think is kind of the point. But it wasn't my favorite. Some of it is so epic though. Some of the shots and the scenery, it's just beautiful. So it's really hard not to be in awe of that. I'm very lucky that I went and saw it in the cinema, which obviously adds to the whole atmosphere. Yeah, the story's solid, but it's just not one of my stories that I can resonate with, obviously. And I just felt like, yeah, the protagonist, just, I couldn't get there with him. But I still understand why people are raving about it, and I'm really glad that people are loving it. I rewatched Dawn of the Dead. This, again, a rewatch, so I've seen this one a couple of times. Great remake. Very 2000s, especially with the special effects. I watched this with my patrons. And look, so many of you love it. Except for this part guy. Why does he not like it? He does not like it. Oh God, Snyder's worst film. It's funny because it's probably my best one for him. But yeah, just a fun action zombie film. I guess I was kind of zombied out after watching The Sadness, which I actually don't think I've even logged The Sadness. I just realized. Did I go over that? Wow, I must have just missed it in there. But yeah, I watched The Sadness this month, and I did a review, so you've probably seen that anyway. I'll log that after this. But yeah, I've watched, I think one zombie film is enough for me each month, to be honest, and The Sadness was so much. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you have not seen the remake and you're a fan of the original, it's really interesting to see the differences because of the different markets at the different times and the different decades. But I think it's a fun movie to watch with friends. I really recommend watching it with a group. I think zombie films are meant to be shared, you know what I mean? It's a shared fear. It's not a solo fear like some of the other films that we watch that are about, you know, like mental health and, you know, dying and all that kind. I mean, everyone dies, but, you know, all those kinds of things. I feel like zombie films should be shared before it's too late. Okay, dark. And then I watched Uma. This is the last film I've watched this month. I'm so sad. I really wanted to like this film. Give it a moment, guys. Just give me a moment. Uma is a story about a mother and daughter who are living secluded, and they have their own bee farm, and the mother begins to become haunted by memories of her past when her daughter shows signs and interest of moving away. That's kind of it. That's it. There's definitely meant to be some kind of twists and turns in there, but they're so obvious from the start that you feel like there is no real reveal. Like, I think about films like Lights Out or Mama, where you realize things about the characters that make it kind of make sense in this kind of poetic, dark way. And this really put everything on the table. So there was nothing to really look into or look forward to for the rest of the film. It felt quite shallow. Yeah, it looked beautiful though. Like, it was a beautiful film from the start. And I really liked the way they structured a lot of the shots, but I didn't feel like there was any real mystery in what was going on. It was all on the table. It gave me kind of short film vibes. I'm sad to say. Okay, a lot of TV this month. Life and Beth was the first one I watched. This is Amy Schumer. This is her series with Michael Cera. Very interesting series that is kind of based on Amy's life, and if you know about her life, you would know that, but it doesn't really present itself in that way. But it's about her kind of figuring out her life. It's a really interesting kind of, it's like coming of age, but she's coming of age in her like 30s, 40s. So definitely for a different crowd. It's a really interesting mix of drama and comedy. Really soulful and about reflecting within, and just really appreciating all of the flaws and learning from different things in your life. It's not like any of our other work where there's punchlines the whole time. It's definitely more serious and more about death and life and everything in between. There's a lot going on, but very good watch, super bingeable, really short episodes, and yeah, I actually really highly recommend this one, especially if you're looking for something different, a little bit more soulful, and of course if you like Amy Schumer. I started Killing Eve, and this is before I watched Sandra Oh and Uma, obviously, and I just heard so much about this for years. Everyone was always like, Killing Eve, Killing Eve, Killing Eve. I don't like the show. I don't like it. I don't know why. I started it and I was kind of getting into it. Something happens in, like, I think season 4 that seemed so predictable. They were setting a character up for something. If you've seen it, you may know what I'm talking about. And ever since then, I just could not get back into it because I felt like it was very obvious the plot points that they were trying to manipulate the audience with. And I just don't care. Like, I just didn't feel like I cared enough about the characters and what happened to them because they were kind of flopping all over the place with sympathies, and it was very strange. So if you don't know the show, it is about a woman who she's a hit woman. She's a hitman and or assassin, whatever you want to call it, and she's been hunted down by detectives. And yeah, Sandra Oh was kind of put on her case, and it becomes personal. It's very interesting, like the tension between them. I did like that. Don't get me wrong, absolutely love that. But I just couldn't get into the characters, and I felt like there wasn't enough at stake. I guess because everyone's dying in this show. There's nothing really to grasp onto, or I can't really feel myself sinking into any character because they might be gone the next minute. I don't know. There was just something about it that wasn't for me. I'd love to hear if other people felt the same because I've only heard praise for it. I have been continuing to watch The Girl from Plainville. I think I mentioned this last month, but I wasn't sure if I was going to keep going. So this has Ali Fanning in it, and it's a true case that if you've seen the documentary, I Love You Now Die, highly recommend that documentary. Sorry, it's like a documentary miniseries. This is based on that case. It's about a girl who had a relationship with this guy, Connor, and they found text messages pretty much of her encouraging him to die. And it's such an insane case. And again, with these kinds of series, it's very strange to think like where they're coming from and the angle, but the more I got into it, the more interesting it became because I wasn't sure if they were ever going to give you answers to why she did what she did, and I don't think I ever got that from watching the documentary. And of course, this is a fictionalized occasion. I like looked up everything about this. The mother in it is very fictionalized, and there's lots of things that aren't obviously true to the story, but I did think it's interesting the motives they give her. I don't know, I just got really deep into it because of that, and I think past episode 3 I just got really into it. So if you're watching it and you're not too sure, I think keep watching. I just wanted to throw it in here because I was on the fence about it before, but I'm finding it very interesting. Something else I found interesting that I just put on the background the other day while I was doing some housework is The Worst Roommate Ever. This is a Netflix TV series, and it's about these first-person accounts, documentary style, about these roommates that people have that are absolutely insane. And when it says worst roommate ever, I was like, oh, they're gonna be like using your toothbrush. It's absolutely not. It's like murder, mayhem, scamming. It's scary. Squatters' rights is a thing. That one I watched about the squatter is insane. Yeah, it's really dark, so I really started enjoying it. If you are looking for something true crime, and it's just like flooded with true crime on Netflix and you're not too sure what to watch, I do recommend checking out this show. It's a lot more hardcore than it seems. Okay, I've got 2 episodes left to go for the new season of Russian Doll. This was very interesting. So what I actually did is I rewatched the whole of season 1 before I watched season 2 just to get back into the mood, but you don't have to do that because it's about something completely different, which I was not expecting. Season 2 definitely takes a different, like a big shift. I'm not going to talk too much about it because Russian Doll is, each episode is very short and there's just a lot to kind of discover for yourself, and I don't want to give away anything. But if you don't know, Russian Doll is a TV show starring Natasha Lyonne. In season 1, she is having her birthday party and she dies and then keeps coming back, and she's kind of stuck in this time loop and needs to figure out how, why, who, where, what, all that kind of stuff. Season 2 takes a trip a different way completely, with a whole different realm, and I didn't find it as interesting. Season 1 is very much focused about her and looking within and her mental health, and just a lot of really interesting metaphors wrapped up into that I felt were more relatable to a wide audience, where this one is more about her history. It's not really within, it's like looking outwards at different things, and of course it still goes back to her perspective and who she is and all that kind of stuff, but I just didn't feel like it was the same kind of feel. Although I do really love everything they've done in terms of techniques that they used. There's some really great party scenes. Everything's really interesting to look at and to watch. The dialogue is always really tight, really slick, really funny, and witty, but it just didn't have the same kind of oomph to your heart. And I think because I watched it so close to each other, like when I rewatched season 1, it was really apparent to me how different they were. So I'm still enjoying it, and I'll take any season of Russian Doll in the future, but I'm just not loving it as much as season 1. And the last thing I have to talk about, Selling Sunset. Guilty. I watched the whole thing. Actually, I know a lot of you are the same, where you go from watching like really hardcore horror straight into reality TV, and this is that. Selling Sunset is the trashiest reality TV show about real estate agents in LA, and they are just horrid. It's so funny. And the reunion's coming up. I can't wait. What can I say? It's everything I expected, and it's just a shocking ride, isn't it? It's just so bad, Davina. I can't. Yeah, it's, I don't know, justice. I just love the other twin. People who watched it, you'll know what I'm saying. The other twin, Brett, the whole season, crickets. Like, what was he doing? The funny thing about the show is it really drags you in with like the gossip and all of that jazz. And then when that gets boring, then they'll show you this like, you know, $26 million house, and you're just like looking around at this house, and it kind of distracts you from how shitty the show is. And they keep kind of like bouncing you back and forth between the drama and the real estate. And I really like looking at real estate, so it works for me. They really get me on the hamster wheel, and I find it really hard to get off. I'm just gonna admit it. Anyway, that is everything I watched this month. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me. I really appreciate all of your support. I do have a little bit of an announcement. During May, I will be away. I'm getting married, so I am going to just slow down the videos for just a couple of weeks in May. I'll still have videos coming out pre-recorded. I'm working really hard on them. They're still going to be up to tier, but just because I don't want to put too much pressure on myself before I go away, and I want to make sure that they stay up to tier. I'm not rushing videos just to get something out. They're just going to be maybe once a week instead of twice a week, just for a couple of weeks towards the end of May, start of June. So just a heads up on that. If I'm not showing up as often on your subscription feed, just go and check out an old video, and that would support me. But no, just don't worry. I'll be back very soon. Thank you all so much for being here. If you'd like to subscribe, I'd love to have you here, and thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.